Compressed natural gas, that is CNG, prices have once again been increased across Delhi-NCR, marking the second hike within just 2 days and adding further strain on daily commuters, cab operators and commercial transport users who rely heavily on CNG-powered vehicles. Well, today, rates were raised by Rs 1 per kilogram, following an earlier increase of Rs 2 per kilogram on May 15, taking the cumulative rise in less than a week to Rs 3 per kilogram. And with the latest revision, CNG in Delhi now costs Rs 80.09 per kg, while consumers in Noida and Ghaziabad will now pay Rs 88.70 per kg. And this fresh increase has been implemented by Indraprastha Gas Limited, that is IGL, which supplies CNG across Delhi and surrounding regions, as part of a broader upward revision driven by persistent pressure on input cost. The company has attributed the price hike to rising global energy costs, which have significantly impacted the economics of natural gas procurement and distribution. Until recently, CNG prices had remained unchanged for nearly 11 weeks as state-run oil marketing companies attempted to shield consumers from global volatility. However, sustained cost pressures and mounting under-recoveries have now forced a partial pass-through of expenses to end users. And the latest round of fuel price increases is closely linked to ongoing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, particularly disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz, that is one of the most critical energy transit routes in the world. And this narrow passage handles a substantial share of global crude oil and liquefied natural gas shipments. And any disruption in the region has a direct impact on global energy markets. Well, the current conflict has led to fears of supply constraints, pushing international crude oil prices sharply higher. And reports also suggest that global crude has surged by more than 50% since late February, with Brent crude rising from around $69 per barrel to over $110 per barrel in the following months. And the sharp increase in crude prices has placed significant financial strain on Indian oil marketing companies, including Indian Oil Corporation, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, and Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. Well, all these state-owned companies have historically played a massive role in stabilizing fuel prices in India, often absorbing short-term losses to protect consumers from sudden global shocks. And in fact, following the Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2022, all these companies paused daily price revisions and maintained relatively stable retail rates for an extended period in order to cushion the domestic economy from inflationary pressures. However, with crude prices now rising again and operational costs increasing, maintaining this buffer has become increasingly difficult. And as a result, fuel prices across segments are now seeing gradual upward adjustments. Alongside CNG, petrol and diesel prices have also been revised recently, with an increase of around Rs 3 per litre after a prolonged period of stability lasting over 4 years. In Delhi, petrol now costs Rs 97.77 per litre, while diesel is priced at Rs 90.67 per litre. Similar increases have been observed across major metropolitan cities such as Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai, where fuel prices have now reached their highest levels since 2022. Government officials have argued that despite the recent increases, India's fuel prices adjustments remain relatively moderate when compared to global trends. And in several other countries, fuel prices have reportedly surged anywhere between 20% to as high as 100%, depending on local market conditions and taxation structures. However, economists caution that even controlled or gradual increases in fuel prices can have a wide-ranging impact on the economy, as transportation and logistic cost rises, eventually feeding into higher prices for essential goods and services. Recent economic indicators has also reflect that all these inflationary pressures, that is India's retail inflation has edged up to 3.48% in April 2026, while wholesale inflation has climbed sharply to an 8.3% high, marking a significant increase largely driven by rising fuel and energy cost. Analysts point out that elevated fuel prices tend to have a cascading effect across multiple sectors, which includes agriculture, manufacturing and retail, as higher transportation costs increase the overall cost of production and distribution. And at the same time, oil marketing companies continue to face financial stress as they are still recovering from earlier losses that was incurred during periods of high crude volatility. Industry estimates suggest that despite recent price hikes, fuel retailers are still absorbing significant under-recoveries, particularly in diesel pricing, where losses have historically been higher due to the heavy usage in freight and commercial transport. Well, looking ahead, uncertainty in global crude oil markets remains a key concern, and the geopolitical situation in the Middle East continues to be volatile. And any further escalation could lead to additional supply disruptions and further spikes in energy crisis. For now, consumers in Delhi-NCR are directly bearing the impact of rising CNG costs, while households and businesses across the country are beginning to feel the broader effects of sustained fuel inflation. And with no immediate signs of stabilization in global crude markets, further revisions in fuel prices cannot be ruled out in the coming weeks, keeping both the policymakers and consumers on high alert. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment and subscribe to the channel.